So Luke, welcome. You're the Director of Fitness at Mayfair Parkway and also a registered nutritionist. So I really appreciate the fact that you're coming here and spending some time talking to squash players about what you would consider to be good nutrition. So in basic terms, what would you expect a squash athlete to be eating as a normal course of their training program?
Well, Barb, first, thanks for having me. I think it needs to be noted that an optimal diet should consist of a wide variety of foods to keep one excited and interested in the foods that they're eating. Healthy eating does not need to be something that is torture. For squash players specifically,
That's good.
we want to be eating a wide variety of plants, fruits, 50% carbohydrates, 30% fats, and 20% proteins. And staying away from refined sugars and processed foods, trying to eat things that are natural, locally grown, preferably in my opinion, and consuming high levels of water to keep hydrated.
So when you talk about fats, now you're not talking about French fries and that sort of stuff, right? You're talking about good fats. So what would be an example of a good fat?
So good healthy fats would be nuts such as almonds, cashews, avocado, olive oil in its natural state. A misconception is using olive oil to heat when cooking food. When that's done, it actually converts to trans fats. So you don't want to be heating oils, you want to be using them in a natural form on salads and foods.
Great. So we know that nutrition is a lifestyle. So you can't suddenly get healthy 2 days before a tournament. But athletes are always concerned about what they should be doing just before, let's say the day of a match, before a tournament. What sort of food should they be eating and when should they be eating pre-match?
I mean, I would suggest definitely eating about 3.5 to 4 hours before your first match and having a good healthy carbohydrate with a protein and a fat. Something such as steel cut oats, quinoa would be good. And then about 90 minutes out from your match, have something simple, an apple, maybe a bar, preferably something that doesn't contain preservatives in it. And then during the match, you want to be consuming water. An electrolyte drink would be better consumed before match, in between matches.
So when you talk about the in-between matches, water only, right? But beforehand, if they knew that they wanted to rehydrate, or it was in a hot climate, or they knew that they were losing a lot of electrolytes, what sort of electrolyte drink would you recommend?
One of my favorites is buying a bottle of Pedialyte, which is actually used for infants when they're dehydrating, and diluting it in a larger water bottle, and then consuming that throughout the day or before matches as needed.
And when you say diluting it, what's the percentage?
Depending on the size of the individual, it's something that needs to be played around with, but roughly about 70% water to 30% Pedialyte, in my opinion.
Okay. So they've eaten well beforehand, they've drunk water during the match, now they've just finished an exhausting match. How long have they got to put nutrition back into their body?
You've got about 15 to 20 minutes to replenish sugar storage. So you want to be consuming some form of meal, whether it's a shake or something that you actually eat, that's about 80 to 85% carbohydrate and 15% protein.
And then, I mean, some of these athletes, there's a lot of kids, but there's also adults, and their after match beverage is a beer. But that's okay, right? As long as they put these complex carbohydrates in their system first.
As long as they replenish right after playing, squash is a sport to enjoy, and with our adult community, having a few pops afterwards is something that's part of the game.
Cool. I'm glad you said that. People will be really thrilled to hear it. And then after that, so they've had 15 minutes. So when should they take their next meal? And sometimes with kids, for instance, they have to play 2 or 3 matches. Mm-hmm. On a Saturday. How long have they, maybe they only have 4 hours between their match and the next one. So what should they be eating between those matches?
Yeah, depending on the amount of time when the next match is, you want to be consuming it roughly a couple hours beforehand, sticking to more of a carbohydrate-based meal because the body utilizes that energy much easier. It doesn't need to take up as much effort as it does to break down a protein.
And so that's fantastic. So we know that we sound nutrition. Now, obviously, they're going to keep eating healthy, they're going to keep eating natural, and they're going to try not to go down the processed food road. The one thing that we do have is we do have a lot of fads and we have a lot of myths about foods. And certainly from my point of view, I would ask you, what about a teenage girl? We're talking about teenage girls who are in their pubic spurt and they feel like they should only eat salads and protein. What would be your take on that?
Definitely to avoid a lot of the media and stuff that's spoken about that's causing them to eat that way. You need to eat a wide variety. You need to be consuming high levels of carbohydrates that are sport specific so that you can perform at a high level. And despite what a lot of young girls think, this is not going to change the way that your body looks and the physiology and dynamics on how you're developing. It will actually help you develop into a fitter, more healthy person.
And the other thing that we often get as females is we get iron deficient.
Yep.
So what would your take be on being iron deficient?
My suggestion for that is to be consuming a high level of kale in your diet. Kale is probably the best source of iron, much better than red meat. I'm not a huge fan of red meat consumption, but that's specific to the individual. So a diet extremely high in kale on a consistent basis daily will definitely help with iron deficiency.
And would you say that preventing iron deficiency is going to be much easier than trying to cure it afterwards?
Definitely. We want to stay away from reactive type behaviors and taking pills and things that are prescribed. The proactivity in all aspects of life is something I would definitely suggest.
So just to summarize this whole food myth, okay, if you were talking to athletes, you would be saying to them not to be scared to eat, right? Because if their body's a machine, if it doesn't have fuel, would you say it's tough for it to perform?
Definitely. Your body will not respond, and not only that, your brain will not respond as the body becomes tired. So we need to be consuming a lot of food and healthy food to be able to energize the machine that you're expecting to perform for yourself. Not only that, for us to develop and condition muscle in the body and just overall create longevity of life and good balanced health, we need to be eating regularly.
And I mean, all athletes know that when you go and train or when you go and play, you're actually breaking yourself down. So if you don't replenish that food, you can't build yourself back up. You don't even get the benefit of the training, right?
Exactly. There will be no progression. And the benefits that we get from training are the way that we rest and take care of ourselves away from being in the training facility. So our sleep, how we're monitoring stress, and how we're fueling the system.
And in terms of knowing whether you're hydrated or not, what's a simple test that you could use to monitor your hydration on a daily basis?
Well, you're usually dehydrated far before you become thirsty. So again, being proactive and just making sure that you're consuming the right levels of fluids is the best way to be testing this.
Well, and the other thing is, couldn't you monitor your pee?
You could, definitely. So the color of your pee will give you an idea of whether you're hydrated or not. The more clear that it is, depending on the amount of vitamins that you're taking, is a really good indicator.
And would you suggest, that brings me to another thing, would you suggest that people take a supplementary vitamin?
I definitely suggest that supplementation of vitamins, which are organic materials, and minerals, which are inorganic, would be beneficial for an athlete, something that they would want to address with a health professional.
So if they have any concerns, you would say go and see a health professional and get your specific needs addressed by somebody who knows.
Definitely. It's always good to help with somebody that's been trained in the area. This is general information we're giving, so I would always advise for optimal health and optimal sport performance to work directly with somebody.
Luke, this has been such a useful interview. I hope the athletes really take what you've said to heart, and I really, really appreciate you giving us your time and your expertise. Thank you for coming down.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.